I think I have to go my own way.
Dude, we've been here doing this for 14 years.
The last 5 felt like 20.
Before we dive in, ask yourself this. How does a man go from building a car empire on national television to quietly fading from the spotlight? Richard Rawlings had it all: fame, fortune, and fast cars. But somewhere along the way, the gas ran out. What really happened when the cameras stopped rolling? Stick around to find out. And if you're drawn to the real stories behind fame and fortune, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because this is one you won't want to miss. Richard Rawlings, the charismatic face behind Gas Monkey Garage, and the hit show Fast and Loud, once lived life in the fast lane, literally and figuratively. From flipping classic cars to building a multi-million-dollar brand, Rawlings embodied the American dream. But behind the roaring engines and the glow of reality TV, the road took a sharp turn. When the spotlight faded, Richard was left facing a quieter, more uncertain chapter. Financial setbacks, failed ventures, and personal struggles began to shadow the empire he built with grit and gasoline. Now, at 56, the man once known for his high-octane hustle is learning that real strength isn't measured in horsepower, but in how you survive when the ride slows down. This is the untold story of Richard Rawlings, the rise, the fall, and the battle to keep the dream alive. Richard Rawlings' story didn't start in the limelight. It began in Fort Worth, Texas, where he was born on March 30th, 1969. Long before the world knew his name, he was just a young kid with a passion for cars and a dream that felt bigger than his hometown. From an early age, Richard was obsessed with everything on 4 wheels. His father, a car enthusiast himself, would take him to car shows and classic auctions. Those early memories left a mark on him, and by the age of 14, Richard had already bought his first car, a 1974 Mercury Comet. While most kids his age were focused on school dances or video games, Richard was out in the driveway, getting his hands dirty and learning what made a machine tick. But Rawlings wasn't born into wealth or privilege. Before fame ever found him, he held down some of the toughest jobs imaginable. He worked as a firefighter, a police officer, and a paramedic. Thankless roles that built the resilience he'd need later in life. Each of these jobs taught him something different: how to stay calm in chaos, how to hustle under pressure, and how to keep moving when the odds were stacked against him. But deep down, the call of entrepreneurship and the roar of a car engine never left his heart. In 1999, Richard took his first big leap into the business world by founding Lincoln Press, a printing and advertising company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was his first taste of running a company and making decisions that mattered. The business grew quickly, thanks to Richard's relentless drive and street-smart sense of marketing. But even as Lincoln Press succeeded, his heart was still in the garage. He knew that his true calling was building and restoring classic cars, not printing brochures. So in 2004, he made the bold decision to sell Lincoln Press. With the money he made from the sale, he bet everything on a risky new venture: Gas Monkey Garage. Based in Dallas, Texas, it was more than just a car shop. It was Richard's vision brought to life. He didn't just want to restore cars. He wanted to build a brand that captured the energy, attitude, and grit of classic American car culture. With a mix of marketing genius and mechanical know-how, Gas Monkey Garage quickly became a name people recognized, even before television came knocking. But when the Discovery Channel launched Fast and Loud in 2012, everything changed. Overnight, Richard Rawlings became a household name. The show followed him and his team as they bought, restored, and flipped classic cars at breakneck speed, all while juggling deadlines, budgets, and big personalities. Audiences were hooked, not just on the cars, but on Richard himself. His quick wit, fast-talking charm, and never-slow-down mentality made him a standout in a sea of reality TV stars. For 8 years, Fast and Loud dominated ratings and brought millions of viewers into the world of Gas Monkey Garage. Rawlings went from local gearhead to international celebrity. His brand exploded. Merchandise, restaurants, energy drinks, and live appearances followed. He became the face of modern car culture, someone who could walk the line between gearhead and businessman. His story was the kind people loved. A self-made man who turned his passion into a multi-million-dollar empire, proving that you didn't need a silver spoon to live the American dream. But like any fast ride, the road wasn't without bumps. Behind the scenes, the pressure to maintain that momentum was immense. As the cameras captured the highs, there were lows that never made it to air. Business decisions that didn't pan out, projects that went over budget, and personal sacrifices that came with the spotlight. Still, in this chapter of his life, everything seemed possible. Richard Rawlings had built something out of nothing, and for a moment, it looked like the ride would never end. From firefighter to reality TV mogul, from small-town dreamer to global car icon, his story was just getting started. But as we're about to see, every rise has its fall, and even the strongest engines can sputter when the road gets rough. At the height of his fame, Richard Rawlings seemed untouchable. Gas Monkey was a household name, Fast and Loud was pulling in millions of viewers, and his brand was expanding beyond the garage. But just like in the car world, even the most powerful engines can stall, and when they do, the crash can be loud. In 2014, Rawlings decided to take a bold step outside of cars with a new venture, Gas Monkey Live. It was a massive music venue located in Dallas, meant to be the next big thing in live entertainment. With its edgy branding and Rawlings' name behind it, the venue drew crowds and hosted big acts. For a while, it looked like another winning move, but behind the scenes, the music wasn't as sweet. Operational costs were high, competition in the industry was fierce, and the margin for error was razor thin. After 6 years of concerts, complications, and climbing expenses, Gas Monkey Live shut its doors in 2020. It was a quiet exit for a project that once promised so much. That wasn't the only venture to fall. Richard had also opened a restaurant called Richard Rawlings' Garage in 2016, a place where fans could grab a burger, buy merch, and soak in the Gas Monkey vibe. It was another attempt to turn the brand into a lifestyle. The restaurant, based in Harker Heights, Texas, featured a car-centric theme with flashy decor and a menu aimed at gearheads and families alike. But the food industry isn't forgiving, even for celebrities. Despite the hype, the restaurant struggled to maintain steady business. And by 2019, it too was closed. And then came the biggest blow of all, the end of Fast and Loud. After an 8-year run, the show concluded in 2020. It had brought Richard into the living rooms of millions and turned him into a television icon. But as the seasons went on, the energy that made the show a hit began to wear thin. Viewership declined, creative tensions reportedly grew, and Richard himself later admitted that it was simply time to move on. The cameras stopped rolling, and just like that, one of the most successful car shows in television history came to a close. The show that had launched a brand and helped build an empire was over. These closures didn't just represent failed ventures, they marked the end of a golden era. For Rawlings, it was a harsh reminder that success in one lane doesn't always translate to another. And when the spotlight fades, the real test begins. Behind the scenes, Richard was no stranger to struggle. Despite the outward image of wealth and success, he's been candid about the financial difficulties he's faced. He's gone broke, not once, but twice. There were times when he had to rely on help from family just to stay afloat. The reality of entrepreneurship is far more brutal than what fans saw on TV. He built everything from scratch, took risks most wouldn't dare to, and along the way lost just as much as he gained. Financial setbacks are one thing, but the emotional toll is another. When you've built your entire identity around motion, momentum, and success, slowing down can feel like failure. The end of Fast and Loud, the loss of his restaurant, the closure of the music venue. Each event was a gut punch, a reminder that even the boldest brands can be vulnerable. For a man who had spent years living life in the fast lane, the sudden stillness was deafening. No roaring engines, no film crews, no crowds, just the hard reality of figuring out what comes next. But Richard Rawlings is not the kind of man to go quietly. These setbacks didn't end him. They tested him. They forced him to reflect, reevaluate, and figure out whether the dream he once chased was still worth fighting for. And that's where the real story begins, not in the rise, but in how he handled the fall. Beyond the fast cars, business ventures, and reality TV fame, Richard Rawlings' personal life has been a winding road filled with sharp turns, steep climbs, and emotional detours. While his professional world experienced highs and lows, his personal journey has been equally, if not more, turbulent, marked by multiple marriages, public heartbreak, and brushes with danger that could have changed everything in an instant. Richard's first marriage was in 1993 to Karen K. Grames. It was short-lived, ending just a year later in 1994. At the time, Rawlings was still far from the spotlight, working various jobs and trying to carve out his path. That marriage quietly faded into the rearview mirror, becoming a brief chapter in the larger story of his life. His most well-known relationship, however, was with Suzanne Marie Mergel. The two first tied the knot in 1999, and for a while, it looked like Rawlings had found lasting stability. They spent 10 years together before divorcing in 2009. But in a twist that mirrored the unpredictability of his career, the couple rekindled their relationship and remarried in 2015. Fans saw them together during key moments of his television success, and Suzanne often appeared to be the steady presence in Richard's chaotic, fast-paced world. Yet, despite the second chance, their love story couldn't withstand the pressures of fame, business, and lifestyle. In 2019, they divorced for the second time, this time seemingly for good. Running a business, starring in a TV show, traveling, managing relationships, it's a high-stress environment that doesn't leave much time for rest. While he hasn't spoken publicly about serious health issues beyond the early shooting incident, the signs of burnout have been evident. Slower appearances, more introspective interviews, and a visible shift from constant hustle to more mindful living suggest a man who's learning to balance ambition with self-preservation. For someone who once measured success in horsepower and headlines, these personal setbacks offered a painful but necessary recalibration. These are the things that remind us all, even the boldest personalities, that life can't always be outrun. In the quieter moments away from the camera and the chaos, Richard Rawlings has had to confront the same questions we all do. Who am I without the job? What does love really look like? And how do I keep going when the road keeps throwing obstacles in my way? He's not just a businessman, not just a TV personality. He's a man who's been broken, rebuilt, and battle-tested. His story isn't just about cars, it's about resilience. And through it all, Rawlings keeps driving forward. In the aftermath of empire building and public scrutiny, Richard Rawlings finds himself at a pivotal point, not at the peak of fame, but in the quiet hum of reinvention. No longer the constant face on cable television, but far from forgotten, Rawlings continues to carve out his place in the world of custom cars and beyond. The roar of the fast and loud engines may have quieted, but the man behind the wheel hasn't stopped moving. Today, Richard still operates Gas Monkey Garage, the brand that launched him into the spotlight. Though it no longer carries the momentum of weekly television exposure, The garage remains active, restoring, modifying, and selling classic vehicles with the same signature flair that first captivated fans. It's not just about cars anymore. It's about maintaining a legacy that once defined a movement. The Gas Monkey name still commands recognition, and for Rawlings, it's the lifeblood of his ongoing mission to stay relevant in an ever-changing industry. Merchandise remains a crucial part of that strategy. From t-shirts to hats, the Gas Monkey brand has extended into lifestyle gear, allowing fans to still wear the emblem of rebellion and speed. While the audience may be more niche than before, it's a loyal one, made up of die-hard automotive enthusiasts who followed his journey from local Dallas garages to international fame. Richard has leaned into that niche, understanding that legacy businesses aren't always about expansion, but endurance. More recently, Rawlings has explored sponsorships and racing affiliations that align with his roots. One standout partnership has been with FHO Racing at the Isle of Man TT Races, an iconic event that blends danger, adrenaline, and history, much like Rawlings himself. Supporting racers at one of the world's most challenging and deadly tracks isn't just a sponsorship move, it's a statement. It shows that Rawlings is still plugged into the heart of motorsports culture, even if he's no longer the one behind the wheel or in front of the camera every week. Richard Rawlings' story isn't just about fast cars, big deals, and reality TV. It's about the unpredictable turns life takes when the cameras stop rolling and the crowds thin out. Beyond the showmanship, Rawlings' journey is a revealing case study of the entrepreneurial roller coaster, the kind that lifts you high with one hand and tests your grip with the other. One of the most important takeaways from Richard's career is just how quickly fame can shift gears. One moment, you're on top of the world with millions watching your every move. The next, you're recalculating your route while the spotlight dims. Rawlings lived through that in real time, experiencing both the explosive rise of Fast and Loud and the gradual fade-out that followed. It's a reminder that no amount of charisma or brand power can protect you from the changing tides of media and consumer interest. What kept Rawlings afloat, then and now, was adaptability. He never relied on a single venture to define him. Whether it was custom car flips, merchandise, restaurants, music venues, or television production, Rawlings constantly pivoted. Some moves worked, others didn't. But each one reflected a core entrepreneurial instinct: diversify and stay moving. If one stream dries up, another must be built, fast. That kind of resilience is what separates temporary success from lasting impact. In interviews and reflections, Rawlings has spoken candidly about his financial missteps, admitting to going broke more than once and relying on family to help get back on his feet. He doesn't hide from those failures. Instead, he uses them as lessons, particularly when advising others. One of his consistent messages is this: don't spend like the good times will never end. He encourages entrepreneurs to practice financial prudence, save when you can, reinvest wisely, and never assume success is permanent. That's a hard-earned lesson for someone who once lived life at full throttle, both personally and professionally. The allure of success can be blinding, and Rawlings admits that chasing expansion sometimes got ahead of sound planning. Whether it was a high-profile restaurant or a music venue, not every venture paid off. And yet, those failures didn't define him. They refined him. He learned, regrouped, and shifted course. For anyone looking to build something, whether it's a business, a brand, or a legacy, Rawlings' path offers a map littered with real-world road signs. Take calculated risks, expect detours, and don't be afraid to start over when the plan stalls. It's not about avoiding failure, but learning how to drive through it without crashing completely. And perhaps, The most underrated part of his evolution is the mindset shift. Earlier in his career, it was all about scale. How big, how fast, how loud. Now, the focus seems to have shifted inward. There's a deeper awareness of what truly matters: sustainability, personal integrity, and doing work that aligns with who you are when the audience is gone. Rawlings' approach is far from perfect, but that's what makes it valuable. It's raw, real, and rooted in trial by fire. He doesn't pretend to have all the answers. Instead, he offers something more meaningful: perspective from someone who's lived it. From late nights in the garage to prime time on national TV to rebuilding after setbacks, Richard Rawlings embodies the messy, unpredictable reality of entrepreneurship. His advice: know your numbers, trust your gut, but don't ignore the data. Build something that matters to you, not just to the market. Surround yourself with people who are better than you in areas where you're weak. And never stop adapting, because the moment you think you've made it is usually the moment you're most at risk. In the end, Rawlings' story isn't just for car fans or reality TV watchers. It's for anyone brave enough to chase a dream, take a hit, and keep moving forward anyway. His life in the fast lane may have slowed, but the lessons he leaves behind are timeless. Fuel for the next generation of doers, dreamers, and builders. If you found Richard's journey as fascinating as we did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, stay tuned for more stories of resilience, reinvention, and the unrelenting pursuit of success. Thanks for watching.